And this is the way we eat over here in America, with our fingers. And you need to come over and join us.
Vernon Howell first visited the religious sect at Mt Carmel in the late 1970s. And by the late 1980s, he was the Branch Davidians' leader, their Messiah, and had renamed himself David Koresh.
Well, it was because of King David, like, you know, because that's where he got the name, was King David. And Koresh, he said, was the last breath that you take before you die. There's the last exhalation that's like, that's what he said.
By then, Koresh controlled almost every aspect of his followers' lives. Koresh used sex to gain control over his followers. He found biblical scripture to justify taking more than one wife, with the aim of having more children.
There was a doctrine around the bride of Christ. Well, along those lines, there's other parts of the Bible that speak about a relationship with a woman, in Song of Solomon, for instance. And he would tie that in together. And that's where the idea of more than one wife came in. And the idea was to have children, and they would be God's children.
Dana Okimoto was part of an Adventist group from Hawaii that had followed Koresh to Texas.
As time went on, I was asked to be one of his wives. And by then, I realized this is a privilege.
Dana soon became pregnant by Koresh.
When I was pregnant with Sky, it was the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me. This was why I was here. I was serving my purpose for God, and that was really powerful stuff.
Her first son by Koresh, Sky, was treated like royalty.
I was little brat prince. I believed that I was supposed to be like the best person on the world, and everyone was inferior to me.
Sherry Jewell, a divorcee from the Hawaii group, became another of Koresh's wives. Her daughter Kiri grew up happily in Mt Carmel's large extended family, but learned to be careful around David Koresh.
He was very hot and cold. One minute, we would be out fishing, and everything would be great, and he would just be so friendly and wonderful. The next minute, he was like a viper. He would snap and just very volatile.
Kiri and her mom, Sherry, were very close, even as her mother became increasingly devoted to Koresh.
As time progressed, I definitely did notice that she started to sort of stray away from me. I became second to the cause, to what was going on, and it was hard.
Kiri's long-divorced parents lived far apart, and her father, David Jewell, found Sherry evasive about the religion.
Before I knew the depth of her involvement with Vernon Howell, David Koresh, I knew that something wasn't right. I just didn't know how wrong. I couldn't conceive that it could be that wrong.
One day in 1991, Kiri's mom brought her to a hotel room and left her there alone with David Koresh. Kiri was only 10 years old.
He said, come here, and so I went to the bed. He tried to have sex with me, and it didn't work. But we were naked, and I was just frozen. And so I think he realized that it wasn't my time, and so he just stopped and finished, and I went and showered and whatever. But he wasn't cruel. He wasn't, other than the fact that I was 10 years old and he was molesting me, he wasn't cruel.
But Koresh's most divisive action was to separate husbands and wives, thereby splintering their families.
Koresh found in the New Testament scriptures which says we are all married to Christ, which he took to mean that we are not married to each other.
Koresh ordered married couples to live separately. Now, only he could have sex with all the women. For David Jones, giving up his wife was proof of his devotion to Koresh.
I want to know what truth is, and David's saying, what does the book say? And he is showing me, and he's shown you and a lot of other people what that book says, and you will not hear it from anyone else.
You know, I really feel that my dad had very strong beliefs in it. I think he did definitely believe that, you know, he was some type of Messiah.
But Kathy Jones couldn't face becoming one of Koresh's wives.
You were no longer considered man and wife. I mean, my husband was like my brother suddenly, and after 10 years of marriage and 3 children, that's pretty difficult. And so I just, one night in the middle of the night, I just packed up my stuff and I left.
Kathy made a painful decision to leave her kids with their father and extended family at Mt Carmel.
That was the hardest thing because I couldn't take them with me. Because I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know where I was going to stay. And I couldn't take them. I couldn't even say goodbye to them. And so I left them when they were asleep, and when they woke up, I was gone.
I was crying for Mom so bad, and I went and told David, you know, I wanted to go stay with my mom for a little bit, you know. He told me if I ever left that I would never be able to come back.
It was an effective threat, especially to a child. All the Branch Davidians were fearful of the outside world. Their religion foretold a fiery battle with armies of non-believers.
David and his followers, and all Seventh-day Adventists, and all people who believe that the book of Revelation is prophetic rather than historical, believe that the end of the world is coming. It's a question of when. And they believed that in a future time, the army of Babylon would attack them, and that they should resist.
Koresh started supporting the group by selling firearms at gun shows. The gun dealing caught the attention of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which began to investigate. On February 27, 1993, a local newspaper printed a damning article. The next dawn brings the government and Davidian standoff that will last for 51 days.